Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be going over how much distribution income I made from high yield ETFs, as well as some general market news and news for Palantir and NVIDIA. As always, don't forget to smash that like button and share this video if you like this type of content so the algorithm gods know that I'm here, and hit subscribe if you're new so you're alerted every time I publish a new video about stocks, investing, finance, and news. But before I get started, a quick disclaimer to appease those YouTube gods. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is not financial advice. You should always consult a professional. With that out of the way, guys, let's get into the video. All right, so we're going to stop over in portfolio land on Robinhood. All right, for the day, I am up $3,700, so not too bad. All right, for the week, I'm actually up $9,600. As you guys can see, we had some whipsawing action here. This is when, the Federal Reserve lowered the interest rate. It looks like it just took a day for the markets to really digest that, because we actually ended up kind of trading flat. And then when the market did digest that, we just ripped. We had a great day, September 18th, moving into September 19th. And then, we ended the week in the green. So we had a really, really good week. All right, for the month so far, all right, this is over the last 30 days, $56,000. I'm up 18.46%. So I really, really do like that. I am holding a lot of cash right now. I do plan to make a big buy in the future. Again, it'll probably be WPay. I haven't really decided what I want to do there yet, but it'll probably be WPay. All right, so today's ETFs, we're going to be talking about PLTW, NVDW, HOOW, XDTE, and MSTW down here. All right, you guys know what the weekly pay ETFs are, so I won't go too deep into what they actually are. If you're new to the channel or a new subscriber, you can check my previous videos or check Roundhill's website for more information. All right, so let's hop over to the portfolio. For this, we're going to use Snowball Analytics because a lot of you guys want those very specific metrics. So Snowball Analytics gives me, all those metrics that you guys want. Robinhood doesn't really give that information to me. Plus, I like the UI. All right, so hopefully this will answer any questions you guys might have. All right, so let's get into it. So again, this is NVDW, the Roundhill NVIDIA weekly pay ETF. This is 120% exposure, and it pays every single week. All right, so let's take a look. Right now, doing really well against the S&P 500. Okay, I mean, that should come as no shock because NVIDIA is absolutely killing it this year. All right, so let's move down. These are the metrics. I still hold 1,000 shares of this ETF. I don't plan to increase my position only because I'm already still really heavy in this ETF, and I like to keep my ETFs, my single stock ETFs, in a certain range, in a certain allocation or weighting, because I don't want to be too overweight. And then if we were to have, a sector or a sell-off for one stock, this portfolio would take a massive hit. So I like to keep my core positions, my anchors, in much larger amounts. So it's more of a risk management thing than anything. All right, so let's look at how much income this ETF actually paid me. So the distribution for this week from NVDW is $306, right? They paid September 16th. So I will take that for sure. All right, let's move on. So we have the Roundhill Palantir weekly pay ETF. All right, again, Palantir has just been doing really well this whole year, right? They had a huge sell-off in the beginning, but it seems like just every other week they're just climbing to the top. Now, they did have a huge pullback. You guys can see here. They had a huge pullback, and that was primarily because of, actually, I don't even remember what that was, but, their all-time highs was like around $186, if I'm not mistaken, and they just broke $180 today. So hopefully we get back to that, all-time high of 186, and Palantir will continue to climb. But I've been pretty happy with PLTW. It's been doing its job. It's been doing what it's supposed to do. All right, so let's look at the metrics. I still hold 1,100 shares of this ETF. I don't plan to increase this. Same reasons that I don't plan to increase NVIDIA, all right, or NVDW. So here are the metrics. You guys can pause here and take a look for yourselves. All right, so how much did this actually pay me? Well, September 16th, this paid me $547. All right, so I'll be adding all of this up on a fancy notepad at the very end. All right, so $916, I'll take that. All right, so moving on, we have the Roundhill Hood weekly pay ETF, HOOW. Robinhood has just been doing really well this year. And again, for any new subscribers, any new viewers, Robinhood was just admitted into the S&P 500. That's why they have this really, really huge jump up, right? And not only that, they're coming out with some new, products, new features for Robinhood, the platform. They just came out, or they just broke news that they're coming out with Robinhood Ventures, which is going to be a kind of like a mutual fund that allows retail investors access to institutional quality or accredited investor quality, investments, things that, in startups, those types of investments. So I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know if I'll be getting into something like that. Robinhood should make money off the fees. So this would definitely be good for just Robinhood, this stock. They also have in the future coming out, more banking features, dual accounts, extra features for their trading platform. And, they will be offering, if they're not already offering it now, mortgages, right? Mortgages for you can get a mortgage through Robinhood, which is going to be crazy. Again, this is becoming an all-in-one fintech, and I am definitely for it. Definitely bullish on Robinhood. I think Vladimir is just a great CEO. I mean, you can't want a better CEO who's so involved with his company, right? He's not just a suit-wearing person. He does a lot of interviews. Definitely like Vladimir. All right, so let's move down here. We also have the metrics here. I only hold 567 shares of this ETF. Okay, not too much, not like the other two, but again, this is an expensive ETF. I think it's hovering around the 60s last I checked. But anyways, not like I said, not a very cheap ETF. So I don't think I'll be adding any more money to this ETF for now, unless we see some dramatic drops. Of course, you guys can see here my current value is about $41,000. So it's in the similar range as NVDW and PLTW. And again, I like to keep my single stock positions in a range. So I'll probably just leave them as is for now. All right. But how much income did this pay me this week? So September 16th, this paid me $898 in distribution income. So I will take that for sure. Definitely a lot here. All right. So now we have the unloved child here. All right. This is the Roundhill MicroStrategy or MSTR weekly pay ETF, MSTW. Anyone who's holding anything related to MicroStrategy is getting hit, right? Whether it's MISTY, IMST, MSII, MSTW, or MST, we're all feeling the pain, right? Some more than others for sure. But let's take a look, right? We had a decent rip. As you guys can see, I mean, it's just been underperforming like crazy, but that's because MicroStrategy has just been getting killed, right? There's a lot of negative sentiment about MicroStrategy, but again, I'm very bullish on MicroStrategy in the long term. This short-term volatility is not going to shake me out. It's not going to scare me. If we look at the last 7 days, we had a huge jump up for MicroStrategy, and hopefully, now this is a little bit of hopium, but hopefully they maintain this going into next week and continue climbing higher, right? A lot of what's happening in the broader market is going to affect Bitcoin. It's going to be a huge tailwind for Bitcoin and by extension, MicroStrategy. Okay, we have the federal funds rate coming down, which is again a good thing. This means that investors will have an appetite for risk on assets. They'll be able to get money for cheaper. But we also are entering this rate cutting cycle, which means that hopefully the Fed continues lowering rates. We don't end up in a recession, and not only that, we could be entering into an economic expansion period. Again, this is just my thoughts. We enter into an economic expansion, meaning that there's going to be more money flooding the markets, and when more money is flooding the markets, more people are going to be investing, right? Just investing is becoming so mainstream now. And I think, Bitcoin, crypto for that matter is also as well. So again, this will be huge tailwinds. You also have a lot of institutional adoption. You have a lot of companies springing up left and right, starting their own Bitcoin treasury. So again, I mean, it's all out there, guys. So I think MicroStrategy will benefit. It will catch up to Bitcoin's price eventually, and they'll start trading closer together. But honestly, MicroStrategy should be trading way more than Bitcoin, to be honest. But we'll see. All right. Anyways. Here are the metrics. I actually increased this position over the week. I added an additional, I think, 144 shares, if I'm not mistaken, bringing my total to 1,268 shares of this ETF. Okay, so I'm pretty heavy in here. I have about $50,000 for my cost basis. Again, I plan to keep this right around there. And all right, but these are the metrics. All right, this is part of my whole Bitcoin strategy. You guys can check out that video. I have it in one of my previous videos. It's called My Bitcoin Strategy. Okay, and I explain why. I'm not using MISTY or MSTR anymore, but I'm using MSTW, right, to basically fund my Bitcoin purchases. All right, so here we go for the week. MSTW paid me $623. Now, this is not bad at all. Their next distribution is going to be really, really good. I'm actually looking forward to that. But anyways, this is MSTW for the week. All right, let's end it off with the Roundhill S&P 500 Zero-DTE cover call strategy. This is just your vanilla run-of-the-mill cover call strategy, capped upside, full downside capture, but they're using Zero-DTE as their underlying strategy, okay? All right, so let's take a look here. Of course, it's underperforming the S&P 500. That's what cover call ETFs do. They always underperform the underlier. Very few, if any, actually keep up with the underlier, even on a total return basis. I think the only ones I have found that even come close are the NEOS funds. Of course, don't quote me on that. I'm sure there's, GPICs and GPIC or whatever that are out there. I'm sure they do very well. But, I chose to go with XDTE. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm still on, thinking what I want to do with XDTE. I might cut it and move the money into WPay. It is still something I'm thinking about, although I don't know for sure if I'm going to do that. All right, so I have 1,600 shares of this ETF. You guys can see I haven't added to it really at all. This makes up one of my core positions, one of the anchors in my portfolio. All right, so for the week, it paid me out $338. All right, this was awesome. I'll take it. Again, you guys can see all the previous payouts. They've all been pretty much similar in value, right? It hasn't really spiked up or went down. I think there's like a $410 one here, but outside of that, they've all been in the 370 range, 380 range, 340 range, right? It hasn't really gone up or down that much. Oh, there's a $290 one here, but we'll ignore that one. I think that was way back in June. All right. So anyways, how much total did I get for the week? Well, I got my fancy high-speed notepad. All right, no spreadsheet here. So for the week, I made $2,714.69. Nice. All right. For the total for September so far, again, we still have 2 weeks to go. I made $8,310. So I will take that. All right. So this portfolio is definitely growing. All right. I keep reinvesting as much as I can back into the portfolio. But your brother over here, I got bills to pay. All right. So I do, kind of cannibalize that distribution from time to time. All right. But either way, $8,310 and the month isn't even over yet. All right. So that's that. All right, guys, let's move into some market news. So this article came out from CNBC not too long ago. The market is sitting on $7 trillion. All right, a wall of cash. I think I covered this a little bit before, but I just want to remind you guys that there is still over $7.4 trillion sitting in money market accounts, and the federal funds rate just came down. Okay, so all that money that's sitting in those, money market accounts or savings accounts or whatever else, they're all going to see their interest rates start to come down. And again, Tom Lee always calls us the most hated V-shaped recovery for the market because of this. This is it, right? This is all this money is just sitting in a cash account that's collecting, 4%. Whereas you have Meta, you have Google, you have Palantir, NVIDIA, Broadcom, Oracle, you have all these many different tech companies that are absolutely ripping, giving you 20, 30, 40%, 50% returns. And you're, basically sitting on cash waiting for that supposed black swan event to hit again, where you're going to see the market dip, but it doesn't seem like it is. It does not seem like the market is going to have another April low, another liberation day, right? So at some point, this money will have to get deployed, right? Just thinking as an institutional, person, investor, or just a person, a high net worth individual, you're going to want to start deploying cash. How much more can you wait while the markets continue to rip? Whether we hit a recession, whether we hit another black swan event is left to be seen. No one can truly predict when that will happen. You still have Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway that's sitting on a ton of cash. But again, I don't know what to make of it, guys. You tell me. All right. This is just a data point for this presentation. All right. But again, there is still a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. All right. So BlackRock came out and said that they favor gold, Bitcoin, and growth and international stocks after the Fed rate cut. So this, again, is pretty cool to see BlackRock come out and say this. If you guys don't know who BlackRock is, they have $12 trillion in assets under management. They are the biggest asset manager in the world. All right, so let's see what they were saying. The Federal Reserve's decision earlier this week to cut interest rates by 25 basis points marked the first reduction since December 2024, signaling a renewed phase of monetary easing. According to BlackRock, the rate cut strengthens the investment case for large cap growth stocks, big tech, large cap. You're going to have your NVIDIAs, your Googles, your Mag 7 in there. You're going to have Broadcom. You can even throw in, Oracle in there. Palantir's on its way up there. But this is going to be good for basically tech, right? Because tech is really, we're in this AI, this AI bull run. I don't even know what to call it. We're in this AI tech bull run. So they're basically saying that these large cap, these technology based, AI focused companies are going to be the benefactors, in my opinion. All right. So anyways, large cap growth stocks, international equities, and alternative cash assets such as gold and Bitcoin. Okay. You guys have, if you've seen my lives, I was covering gold for quite a while. I haven't done a live in a long time, but gold is still the best performing asset year to date, 38%. And if you're, investing in those leveraged ETFs on gold or gold miners, you could be up as much as, 100 to 200%. So gold it's just having its breakout year. All right. Whether there'll be a pullback, I have no idea. All right. But what did BlackRock say? We believe the U.S. economy will avoid recession for the foreseeable future. If that proves true, large cap growth stocks are most likely to benefit from a lower rate environment, BlackRock said or stated in a recent investor note. So again, bullish. I am so bullish on this year and definitely going into next year. But of course, all of that can change if one man decides to tweet something really, really negative. So we'll see. But bullish definitely for Bitcoin, bullish definitely for Ethereum, and bullish definitely for tech stocks. All right, so moving on. We had Palantir in the news. All right, they're set to sign, or they probably already signed, a $1 billion AI-focused deal with the United Kingdom military. This is huge. All right, so Palantir is set to sign a roughly just a $1 billion, 750 million pound deal with the United Kingdom military as part of President Trump's trip to the country. The UK's Ministry of Defense will spend the amount on Palantir's artificial intelligence technology. The Royal Navy will also be a part of that contract. As per the terms of the deal, Palantir will collect information from various databases across the UK military and identify recruitment gaps and whether a person is suitable to be deployed. It will also allow Palantir to identify parts and maintenance periods for the UK's military assets. If you guys have been in the military, if I have any vets who watch this, you guys would know this all too well. Ordering parts for vehicles, doing all that O&M, all that operating and maintaining of equipment, getting spare parts. It can be a hassle and it's not always quick. So having someone like Palantir come in and get ahead of that, find out where the issues are and solving them and making it more streamlined. I mean, again, this is just further proof about Palantir's software. It's not just used for targeting a bunch of bad guys and dropping bombs on them. It could be used for not only commercial use. We've seen that in the finance sector. We've seen that in the banking sector. We've seen that in the manufacturing and logistics sector, but also it could be used commercially or in a commercial, lethal scenario for supply chain, right? For supply chain. So this is just cool. I like what Palantir is doing. Again, it is a controversial stock, but I like the software. I like how they're integrating artificial intelligence. And, there's just more and more further proof that Palantir doesn't need to just rely on U.S. DoD contracts. And again, they still have a partnership with NATO. They're going to be breaching out into other areas in the future. I see Palantir software being adopted worldwide. All right, so as we can see, Palantir is just doing really well over the last week, up 7.74%. Again, ending the week on $182, which is a huge deal. We finally broke 180 because a couple of weeks ago, we were back in August, we were at the highs of $186, August 12th to be exact. So now we are well on our way back up there. Hopefully we get there. If anyone bought Palantir around this time period, all the way up until about September 5th, September 8th, when it started to climb back up, congratulations, you bought the dip, all right? So I think Palantir, again, has a lot more room for it. It is definitely going to be under the next Mag 7, right? We have the Mag 15 or whatever you want to call them. I don't even know what to call them. But Palantir is doing well. You guys can hear the excitement in my voice because I definitely am bullish on Palantir. All right, we have NVIDIA in the news, and this one is going to have kind of a joke with it because I thought it was hilarious. Okay, so NVIDIA and Intel to develop AI infrastructure and personal computing products. Intel is going to design and manufacture custom data center and client CPUs with NVIDIA NVLink. NVIDIA is set to invest $5 billion in the Intel common stock. All right, this basically propped it up. So who's the actual winner in this? I think it's NVIDIA, to be honest. I think it's NVIDIA. If anything, they probably had to invest because the administration, the Trump administration, wanted them to, because Intel is an American company, right? An American tech company with a huge history. All right, so I am not surprised that NVIDIA and Intel are coming together on this collaboration. But I think this is just going to strengthen NVIDIA's grasp on the market because not only do they have software that can integrate with ASICs chips that are produced by Broadcom, right? That just gives more power to NVIDIA. It allows for interoperability between NVIDIA's, Blackwell chips and all of their GPUs, but it allows them to operate with ASICs chips, which is a big deal, right? Because the ASICs chips are custom chips. So this is just giving more reason, to buy NVIDIA products, right? This is a good thing for NVIDIA, because now ecosystems can't get away. They're not going to, or companies are not going to be able to get away with just ASICs chips, right? Or if they want more compute power, more GPU power, they can include GPUs from NVIDIA as well as have the ASICs chips. But now you're including Intel in all of this. So now there's going to be a lot more interoperability. So again, I think this is a smart move for NVIDIA. It's definitely a tailwind for Intel because Intel they weren't sexy. They have nothing going for it, and their stock reflected. All right, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, guys. All right, but I really wanted to hit on this quote or this little speech from Jensen Huang. AI is powering a new industrial revolution and reinventing every layer of the computing stack from silicon to systems to software. At the heart of the reinvention is NVIDIA's CUDA architecture. I've talked about their CUDA architecture before. All right, the CUDA libraries, there's a library for almost everything, right? Whether it's robotics, self-driving cars, logistics, etc., right? They have a CUDA library for everything. All right, and I think, again, this is just going to strengthen NVIDIA's marketplace or strengthen NVIDIA's place in the marketplace, right? This historic collaboration tightly couples NVIDIA's AI and accelerated computing stack with Intel CPUs and vast x86 ecosystem, a fusion of two world-class platforms. Together, we will expand our ecosystems and lay the foundation for the next era of computing. We've heard Sam Altman, Lisa Su. We've also heard a couple other people, Microsoft and Google, talk about the AI stack, right? The American AI stack. And this is an exact example of that. All of these tech companies working together to build, and basically proliferate the American AI stack across the world, right? Because you also have data centers being built in the United Kingdom, and they're all going to be using the American stack, right? Okay, so after this announcement, didn't really impact NVIDIA all that much. NVIDIA is still up for, the past 6 months, but over the past week, didn't really do much, right? This was the China news, them getting kicked out of China. But, China came crawling back and saying, hey, we'll keep the door open to conversation. We don't want to just ban NVIDIA. And of course, there's still ongoing negotiations from Trump or the Trump administration with China's, Xi Jinping administration. So there's still conversations going, especially regarding trade. I would not be surprised if all of that is dropped and NVIDIA re-enters that marketplace, right? This is all politically driven. So not a whole lot of, didn't really affect the share price when they announced this, but we saw Intel absolutely rip, right? Absolutely rip. It jumped 25%, almost 30%, right? And then, it kind of came back down to earth, but still, this is more of a tailwind for Intel stock than it is for NVIDIA. Of course, this is not going to move the needle for NVIDIA. All right, but I thought this picture was absolutely hilarious. Let's take a look. All right, this is Trump sitting in his Oval Office with 4 screens. One screen says that he bought Intel at 20 because, the U.S. government has a stake in Intel now. And now Intel is at 30, right? So I don't know. I thought this was just funny. Like, this is such a troll. Like, look at this. Look at this. I just zoomed in. I hope you guys can see this. But look at this. I mean, this is, man, I don't think we're ever going to get another president that is this trolly, or whoever is doing the marketing for his administration. I mean, this is just funny. All right. So anyways, guys, that'll do it for me. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got some value from it, some education from it. Outside of that, I will see you guys next week, Monday morning. All right, enjoy your weekend. Go touch some grass. Go have dinner. Go have a beer, barbecue, whatever. All right, enjoy your weekend. I will see you guys next week. Take care.